Welcome to your December 9th edition of Off the Mat. This is our season finale. We're going to talk TUF 14, and we're going to get into a preview of UFC 140 right after this. We are back here at Buffalo Wild Wings for our 6th edition of our OTM at BWW shows. I'm Bernard Oliver. I'm joined by Jeremy Hurt to my left and John Urcuyo in the middle here. Guys, how y'all doing today?
Go ahead. I'm going to let you answer first.
Well, I'm pretty excited now that I got to go first finally. 5 different shows, and this is the first time I get asked a question here. Jeremy's usually taken over by now. But I'm excited.
Jeremy?
Let me just say one thing. I'm happy to be here.
Y'all fight like a married couple, just gonna let y'all know. Getting into the topics we're gonna tackle today, we have a lot to talk about, guys, so we're gonna get straight into this. The TUF 14 finale was an amazing card. It's probably, I don't know to say the best TUF finale card we've ever seen, but it's up there. It's definitely number 2 if it's not fighting for number 1. Your boy Bedford came out, man. Jeremy called this last week. He said Bedford's a really good fighter. I wasn't a believer. I'm not sure where John stood on that, but Johnny Bedford kind of came out and he just kind of dismantled his opponent. I did not expect that at all from Johnny Bedford.
I will say that analysis, that prediction, whatever you want to call it, about Johnny Bedford, that wasn't the Johnny Bedford I was talking about. That was an entirely different fighter. His stand-up looked incredible. I mean, extremely smooth, extremely good technique. And really every facet of his game was just massively improved. Very, very impressed with Johnny Bedford in this fight.
He definitely came in there like a man possessed. Came out there for an entertainment factor. You've got to believe that sitting there after losing what he thought was his chance to move forward in the sport, having that taken away from him by Dotson, he's got to come out there and in front of all those fans show everyone and Dana White that he is ready to fight and that he can put on entertaining fights, and he did exactly that. Came out and really put on a show.
And speaking of Dotson dismantled TJ, came out and he pretty much did what we said he was going to do. Came out and put the hands on TJ, and TJ really didn't know where to go, how to counter Dotson. Very impressed with Dotson, very impressed with Bedford. Everybody from the TUF finale, even down to Marcus Brimage, one of my top 5 guys. Everybody came out and they performed. Like, everybody who won came out and performed.
Yeah, you wonder with Dotson, the further down the road he gets, if maybe his height and reach, if that doesn't eventually start playing in a little bit. But this kid, I mean, the power and that combination of the explosiveness and the agility makes him an incredibly exciting fighter. If not in that weight class, maybe somewhere else, maybe in that weight class. This kid is definitely someone to watch. TJ Dillashaw's no punk. I mean, that's a solid fighter, great wrestler, has got big power, big hands. Dotson wore him out.
And when you're dropping down to that low of a weight, you've got a guy who's got such power, such striking ability, when in that division, we're talking about guys who sprawl, who like to wrestle, who like to go to the ground and use that as their main force of attack. And Dotson, being so effective in his takedown defense, it gives him such an advantage. And you saw what it did. TJ, usually a guy, game plan, take him down, ground and pound. Dotson, there was no question that was not going to happen. And Dotson's power really was on display, during the finale.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about Dotson and the things that he was going to do in this fight. And he went out and he did them, but he did it in a way that even impressed us who picked him to win this fight. Speaking of impressive, I like to call our next fighter, Mr. Wow Barao. I think that's going to stick. Patented, pending, copyrighted by Off the Mat. I like to call it the Wow Barao factor because this guy comes out and him and Bermudez wore for the small amount of time that they had in that round. They wore, and Barao comes in there and he gets that arm bar out of nowhere. One of the fastest arm bars I've ever seen. Had Bermudez tapping before they rolled over and he actually locked it in. I thought he broke the guy's arm.
Yeah, I really thought he broke it. It looked like pretty clearly he did, but I mean, you're not going to see a better one-round fight. You're not just plain and simple write that down. It's not going to happen. You get 2 knockdowns and a submission in 1 round. I mean, what more do you want to see? Fantastic fight. Again, for 1 round, you're not going to beat that, plain and simple.
Oh, and Diego Brandao, I mean, this kid is the truth, okay? I mean, he's the real deal. The whole season, his striking, his stand-up game, his aggressive nature has been on display in the ring and throughout the house. But now we got a chance to see, wow, his ground game is just as good, turning the fight completely around. Knocked out, he was on the ground. This fight could have been ended in one punch. Bermudez had such an advantage, had him on his back, and Diego finds a way, snags the arm, turns it over. Just fantastic. Just absolutely as entertaining as it can get. Unfortunately, I don't know if we're going to be seeing that displayed that much more because his striking is so good. I don't know how many times we'll see him in that position, but I hope we do definitely in the future because that was one entertaining first round.
And excuse me, not Barao. I believe that's Diego Brandao. Excuse me. I don't know where my head's at right now going to Barao. Completely different fighter, excuse me. But the wild Brandao factor is what we're going to call that. I think we're going to be using that in the future, guys. When on the other side of the break, when we come back, we're going to finish talking about the TUF 14 finale. We got 2 more fights for you guys on that. And we're going to preview UFC 140. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. You are tuned into Off the Mat from Buffalo Wild Wings.
High school kids wanting to get it on. Apparently what he does for money is make children. We learned that apparently segways are really important. In Tron, they ghost ride the whip. Neil Diamond, I like to call him the Jewish Elvis. Fridays at 9, I'm here, love me, please, not so late.
Welcome back to Off the Mat. I'm Bernard Oliver. I am joined by Mr. Jeremy Hurt to the far left and John Arcuyo in the middle there. Guys still going hard? Going good?
I'm going hard.
To the wall.
That could be taken the wrong way. I'm sure we're going to see that on YouTube, some comments. Please refrain from making weird comments on YouTube, guys. But anyway, we are at Buffalo Wild Wings. This is Off the Mat from Buffalo Wild Wings 6. This is our 6th edition, our season finale for the year. I know you guys are going to miss us. We're going to wish you guys a Merry Christmas here. We got the festive decorations around the UFC 140 poster. We're going to get to that in just a minute. Getting back to the Ultimate Fighter 14 finale, Yves Edwards and Tony Ferguson. Fight did not go the way that I thought it was going to go. Yves, I don't know if he was uncomfortable or if Tony is just that caliber of a fighter already where he's given a veteran a hard time in the ring or in the octagon.
First, I am disappointed in myself for not sticking with my boy Tony. I thought that he was going to have a little bit more trouble with this one, but he really showcased his stand-up ability. Able to go through the rounds, kind of do what he wanted to do, found his range well, gave Edwards some trouble, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I thought it was going to go the other way, but you know, I really like seeing how Ferguson is stepping his game up. We see he's kind of evolving, moving forward. Still didn't see much any kind of ground game attack or any kind of improvement there, but his hands were flying pretty nice, and I thought he did look very good in this fight.
Well, you know, fair is fair. I talk a lot of trash about the fact that I almost always dominate the picks. Fair is fair. I did not dominate the picks on this one. I had Yves Edwards, you know, I had TJ Dillashaw, and I missed badly on both of those. Tony Ferguson's hands are improving leaps and bounds. This is a guy that if he keeps on this trajectory, maybe he hasn't displayed those other parts of his game to this point, but he's going to have that opportunity at some point soon because his hands are getting to a point now where nobody is going to want to deal with him. If Yves Edwards gets overwhelmed by your striking, people are going to start looking for other avenues with Tony Ferguson. I guarantee it. Nobody's going to stand and bang with that dude for much longer.
Definitely, and we forget that Tony Ferguson is a wrestler. He's a great wrestler. He's just so talented with his hands that it kind of leaves your mind that he's a great wrestler. And who knows where his ground game is right now. I'm sure that it's improved just as his hands have improved. And looking forward to seeing a lot of Tony Ferguson in the future, man. Moving on to our last fight, the main event, man. What a disappointing fight in Miller and Bisping. Both guys getting gassed, and Miller just plain losing it after the first round. I mean, it was pretty much done when they started the second round. He was so out of shape, well, not out of shape, but he was so gassed.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You see a guy who is so amped up, so ready to make his point, prove the fact that he's the better fighter, and he comes out. We see that first round. It was entertaining, and he definitely took round one. Miller just, too excited. Comes out, Bisping weathered the storm, sat up there, found his range, put some great power shots in, kind of just took over. Miller, shows how tough he was. Took a couple knees, kept calling Bisping to keep bringing it, but eventually it wore him down, and Bisping took over the fight. Ended up, winning. I do really enjoy the classiness of how this fight turned out. Probably the opposite of what we all thought was going to happen. Bisping comes out very classy, very humble, thanks to fans, his family, and Miller as well. And then Miller reciprocates. I think that's definitely great for the sport. Unfortunately, the fight didn't go as bang as we wanted, but still definitely a good showing.
Yeah, in this fight, to me, the difference here was just simply that Bisping's a bigger, stronger fighter. Also, he's been in the octagon quite a bit, since being Ultimate Fighter 3, I believe. Since he's entered the octagon, he's entered it a lot. And Miller's been in there before, but this is a guy that's had a pretty long career, mostly outside of the cage. I mean, to the largest degree outside of the octagon. And it's kind of hard. You can't replicate that. You can't replicate the lights and 20,000 people and 2 million people watching at home. And I think the adrenaline, it's been said to death, but I think the adrenaline kind of played a part in this fight. You come out hyped, and eventually you need a quick finish if you're going to come out hyped, because eventually, sooner or later, your body's going to run out of that juice that it's running on. I think that's what happened to Miller in this fight. It's a shame, but I can't say it was totally unexpected.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for our Miller and Bisping talk. Definitely looking forward to their upcoming matches. Who knows who Miller is going to fight? Bisping probably going up against maybe Chael Sonnen, or I believe his match has already been made. But definitely looking forward to his fight, his next fight. And eventually, I'm sure he'll get that shot at Silva. But that's going to wrap it up for us on the TUF 14 finale, guys. When we come back, we're going to talk UFC 140, get into some Jon Jones, Machida, and a couple of other supporting cast there when we come back from the break.
Wouldn't be surprised to see if he's got one more in him.
He tested Matt Hughes' chin, and Matt Hughes failed.
If he gets this fight to the ground, it's no contest.
Welcome back to Off the Mat. I'm Bernard Oliver, joined by Jeremy Hurt and John Arcuyo over to my left. Guys, you still going strong, going good?
Going strong, super strong.
I guess y'all don't like my my pitches to y'all, huh? Anyway, getting into UFC 140, what we do best here. Man, you got Chan Sung Jung versus Mark Hominick. I like to call him Franken Hominick. Dubbed him that a couple months ago. I know we had a good laugh about that on the show, but hey, you got the Korean Zombie versus Franken Hominick. I mean, you got a classic horror movie matchup here, and these two guys. You got the striker and Mark Hominick going up against the Diamond Chin, I like to call him. You don't really hear that a lot. You hear Granite Chin. I like to call him the Diamond Chin, Chan Sung Jung. Really, I feel like Chan Sung Jung's chin is going to negate all of Mark Hominick's striking. I really don't think that he's going to come out here and get a KO against somebody like Chan Sung Jung.
Well, the beautiful thing at that weight class is it doesn't have to occur that way anyway. At that weight class, they have every tool in the belt. I mean, you have to with 145. There's no question. I don't even really want to get too deep in this. It's a tough fight to call. It's almost impossible. If you tell me you know where this fight's going, then I'll call you a liar. It's a difficult fight. Literally could go in any direction.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you got Jung. He's a fantastic fighter. Just get awarded, submission of the year. Hominick, this guy, famous for kind of the wrong reason you don't want to be famous for, but shows his toughness. I mean, he had another head growing out of him, and he still fights out, arguably wins the last round with the best featherweight in the world right now. So I think that this is definitely going to be a great fight. Definitely got to agree, though. I don't know. Either way, it could easily go either way, but fireworks for sure. That's my pick. Is it's going to be possibly fight of the night.
Remember, guys, you can go on UATVonline.net and you can see our picks because we're about to get into our picks on the show right now. Make sure you guys go check that out. I'm going to take Chan Sung Jung by submission in round 2. I just feel like a person who's won submission of the year watched YouTube videos and figured out one of the hardest moves to do, locked down the Eddie Bravo twister and did it to somebody in the same frame of a couple of months. I'm going to go with him for a submission against somebody who, you know, is predominantly a striker.
I'm going with Hominick. I think that he'll use his length to his advantage. I think that he'll largely keep it standing, and I think, agreed, it's, you know, you're not going to knock Jung out, not early anyway. But again, I think that physically, I think that one tool kind of gives him a little bit of separation, and I think that'll play into how this fight goes. I'm going Hominick by decision.
Jung has got the talent, he's got the chin, he is super exciting. I'm going to pull Jeremy. That having been said, I'm going to go with the toughness of a Hominick in that reach. I think that's how it's going to turn out, and Hominick's going to take this fight.
I'm telling you, y'all fight like a married couple. Y'all need to just go ahead and tie the knot. Getting into our next fight, Claude Patrick versus Bryan Ebersol. Now, this fight originally was Roy McDonald versus Bryan Ebersol, a fight I was very excited about. But then you get Claude Patrick coming in there, somebody who has a lot of submissions that can come in and get somebody like Bryan Ebersol. And Ebersol, just such an unorthodox fighter. I mean, how can you pick against the guy? You know, he comes out with capoeira
in the background, and the Indianapolis native did not disappoint. In a back-and-forth first round, Ebersol left Chris Lytle with the cut below his left eye at the end of the round. In round 2, Ebersol delivered a huge knee to his head and later scored with his...
Where does this fight go? It's almost about... Again, it's two great athleticism, great explosiveness. I'm just going to pitch it to John. I really, you know, some of these fights you just go, I'm not going to pretend like I know what's about to happen because I don't.
Well, and it's just exciting that, you know, you have someone like McDonald drop out and we get a great fill in Claude Patrick, and I think that it's lucky that, you know, we're in this day and age, this time of the UFC where there are guys that are willing to just jump in and really kind of save this, maybe not save the card, but definitely save the fight. Still exciting. Another who choose them, you know, I think that, it could go either way. I like Ebersol. I got to say that I'm leaning a little bit more towards Patrick. I do like, you know, I'm not usually one to go with the Canadians, but in this fight, I really think Claude Patrick's got the advantage.
Claude Patrick is in a different class when you want to throw him in there with the Canadians. I think, you know, you got GSP up there, French-Canadian, then you got Claude Patrick coming up and a rising star in the UFC, beating Daniel Roberts in his last fight. So we're going to get into our picks. Jeremy, who you got, and, you know, how are they going to do it?
I'm going with the Claude factor. Never bet against Claude. Never bet against Claude. I'm going Claude Patrick, submission in the second.
It's a nice pick. John, who you got?
I'm going to have to go ahead and agree. I'm going with Patrick. I think he's definitely got the advantage over Ebersol.
Wow, I'm going to split you guys down the middle then, because I am going to take Bryan Ebersol because he's the veteranship and just everything that he has in his arsenal. It just makes me feel like he kind of outmatches Claude for right now, just experience-wise, and he's just a weird fighter. So I'm going to take Ebersol by round 2 submission, actually. Getting on to our next fight. Tito Ortiz versus Lil Nog here. Lil Nog, Big Nog fighting on the same card. Don't get them mixed up. They are twins. One of them weighs more. That's the only difference between them. Lil Nog taking on Tito Ortiz. I really feel like Tito is... He came back. He beat Ryan Bader, lost to Rashad Evans. I really feel like he's going to come into this fight riding kind of on a high, you know, that whole I'm back kind of thing. But then he's going to meet Lil Nog's hands. And if they try to go to the ground, he's going to meet Lil Nog's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I really feel like Lil Nog is going to come out in this fight and show up Tito.
And don't forget, Tito has excellent jiu-jitsu himself. He's gone to Abu Dhabi and competed very well. And physically, even though the game in a lot of ways has passed Tito by over the last several years, physically this guy is and has always been kind of an imposing guy. His upper body is pretty silly. He's a thick dude. And that could cause problems for Nogueira. That's something that the Nogueiras have had trouble with, both of them in the past, is guys that could out-physical and could, you know, sort of overwhelm them. And Tito does have that ability. That said, in spite of all that, yes, he beat Ryan Bader. Ryan Bader's a wrestler with a lot of power who thinks his hands are a lot better than they actually are. That's not what Nogueira is. this guy has legit boxing. There was a time where his brother was considered to have the best boxing of any heavyweight in the world. His boxing's better. So that makes a very interesting matchup. And, you know, even though he is a Nogueira, I'm not sure he's got that big of an advantage on the ground because of Tito's size and jiu-jitsu, but those hands make a big difference.
Well, we can't count Tito out. You know, it's obvious we're not all big fans of Tito, but he's still a great fighter. You look at that Bader fight, he caught him. You know, and that's what happens. Sometimes you get caught, and he jumped on. He showed that he knows what to do in that ring. He's a vet, and he jumped on his opportunity, took Bader out. Right here, going into to Team Nogueira right now, who's hot. They're as hot as Hansel right now. I think that they definitely have the advantage. I thought long and hard about this one because I feel like this is a setup fight for Tito to make some unbelievable comeback and then get some movie deal about his great triumph over all the haters. But I can't pick Tito. I'm going to have to go against him. I think Lil Nog's going to have this one.
All right, so you got Little Nog, Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm going with Little Nog. You talk about the experience. Little Nog's been around for a minute himself, even though it's not all been in the UFC. Pride wasn't a small promotion. I'll go with Nogs for the reasons I already give. I think the key thing that separates these two fighters is Nog's hands. All
right, and John, you got Lil Nog too, correct?
Absolutely. Hands are definitely advantage Lil Nog.
All right, well, I'm going to take Lil Nog too. I guess we are unanimous up here on that. Frank Mir, Big Nog 2. Now, this fight might be a little bit different than the first time. First time they fought for the interim heavyweight belt. Big Nog said that he lost the belt because he wasn't fighting smart. He's going to fight smart this time. What do you guys think about the fight?
I think that Big Nog absolutely doesn't want to stand up and test his chin any more than he has over the last couple of years. Frank Mir's one of these guys that you want to hate so badly and you just sort of wish he'd disappear, and every once in a while it seems like he's going to. It seems like he's gone. Frank Mir, it seems like his career's been over 4 times in the last decade, and it just keeps coming back, and I think this is going to be another feather in another resurgence of Frank Mir. I think since that second Lesnar fight where he got busted up, he's put on too much weight. He's combined really good striking.
He is an unbelievable talent. The guy, he keeps hanging around because he's that good. We forget about him because there are some elite fighters in the heavyweight division. He's kind of gotten lost amongst the jumble, but he's still a top-tier fighter. You know, if this fight was in Brazil, maybe I could go with Big Nog, but I've got to say, Frank Mir, he is just technically, he is, I think, just an all-around better fighter, and I think he's just still got the advantage, and it's just going to go his way again in the rematch.
And, you know, there's 3 things I kind of said that Big Nog needs to do to win this fight. He can't take shots like he did against Brendan Schaub. He has to be technical against somebody with the ham hock for hands, Mir, I like to call him. He has to be technical against him. He can outbox Mir. Mir has great hands, but Big Nog's hands are better. Has to be technical. And he has to use that clinch and that dirty boxing he's so good at, man. Get Mir in the clinch, lock him down, take his hands away from him. And I really feel like that's Big Nog's key to success. If he doesn't do those 3 things, if he misses just one of those, I really feel like that he's going to lose this fight because Mir's going to upstage him, and Mir's going to be on his way to get another title shot. I'm going to take Big Nog in this fight. Round 2 KO, actually. Jeremy, who you got?
One thing that we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, these 2 guys, debatably the 2 best guards in the history of that weight class. I think Mir's a little stronger. There's no question Nogueira is a technically more sound boxer. To me, the difference in this fight, again, is that strength, whereas I don't see it playing out for Tito. I do see it playing out for Frank Mir. I see Frank Mir by knockout. The chin's a little bit suspect. Love Big Nose, one of my favorite fighters of all time. The chin is very suspect at this point.
I'm going to have to agree. I got to go with Mir in this one, taking this rematch. Probably, I think it's going to be 3rd round TKO stoppage.
All right, guys, we're getting into our final match here. A very explosive and just monumental fight. You have Jon Jones versus Lyoto the Dragon Machida. Now, this fight is, I don't even know which way this fight's going to go. I was pretty definitive on the website when I posted my picks of what Jon Jones is going to do, and Lyoto really doesn't have a chance running away from somebody like Jon Jones. Jon Jones's reach is way too long for somebody like Machida to run away from. I really don't feel like, I feel like he's going to have to come out with a different game plan. If he comes out normal, Lyoto Machida, Jon Jones takes this fight.
You hear that a lot about Lyoto Machida, that he runs away. I don't know how accurate that is. Machida has a very specific style, and it's all about getting in and getting out. It's not necessarily running away. It's picking your spots, doing your damage, and getting out of there. You can, you know, talk about the philosophy of that and the morals of that, but it's pretty smart, obviously. With the exception of Shogun, it's done him fairly well through the years. I don't know how that plays against a guy with an 80,000-inch reach. You know, I don't see how you do that. Again, a guy like Rashad, who uses that explosiveness getting in and out to set up his shots, I think that would be a little more effective. You're talking about a guy that needs to hit him to win, and most of his shots, the wind-up, the delivery is not necessarily real long, it's real compact. You got to get in there. Boy, it's going to be awful hard to do against Jon.
Well, and it matches up on paper as a fight that is, you know, phenomenal. These are two guys who make their rounds on finding the distance. It's all about distance. Like you said, just because he goes for the hit and run, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the style of fighting that he's all about, the striking. But when it comes to finding your distance, and you're down 10 inches already from the start, I think that's going to be the issue here. And you're looking at a guy who hasn't lost speed at all. He's got the reach. He's still got his ability to take down, his just the most unique striking from everywhere. Those kicks, he can throw 3 kicks and a knee on you within the time of one trying to block one, the other one's right on top of you. Jon Jones is a freak athlete that we haven't seen before. And we're just seeing these records pile up and pile up. Lyoto Machida, the matchup here, in theory, it is a good matchup because that is what people need to do. They need to get in and out, get inside of Jones's, you know, long reach, those dirty elbows, those long knees. Get inside, do your damage, get away, and get to safety as quick as possible. But right now, I don't see if there's anybody in the UFC that could really do that to Jon Jones. He's so quick, he's still young, still learning, his potential limitless. And I think that Machida's just going to have the same effect as all these other guys have in the past.
And, you know, going off that, we're going to get into our picks here. And I don't want to have it confused with all those people out there. Jeremy did bring up a very good point with Lyoto Machida. He doesn't run. Necessarily, when I say run, I mean he baits people. They step in, he hits them with KO power. And they don't expect it because he's a karate guy. I just don't see that being, I don't see the bait. I don't see Jon Jones taking the bait. I see Jon Jones being Jon Jones. And I see him KOing Lyoto Machida by round 2. I really feel like he's going to get round 2. They're going to fill each other out. They're going to find that. One of them's going to find the distance of the other. And I believe it's going to be Jon Jones. He's going to knock him out in round 2. John, who you got?
I'm going to go, I totally agree. I think Jones round 2 knockout.
I've been a big Machida fan for a long time, very unorthodox. We kind of saw, though, the point to beating Lyoto Machida is hitting Lyoto Machida. If you can hit him, you can beat him. That's certainly something that I think Jon Jones can be able to do. I like Machida. I'd love to go over him here, but I like Bones a lot more. And like John said, I don't know who beats him at 205, but I'm reasonably sure it's not Lyoto Machida. I'll take Bones. I think it ends probably somewhere 3rd, 4th round, probably referee stoppage during some ground and pound.
We are very short on time here, guys. We're going to tackle a subject. George St. Pierre has been injured. He is out for 10 months. And Nick Diaz will fight Carlos Condit for the interim welterweight belt. Huge blow to GSP's career right now. Injuries stacking up. Do you guys feel like he's going to come back from this ACL injury? For a wrestler, it's a terrible injury. Do you feel like he's going to come back from an ACL injury?
It's tough. I'm not going to say yes or no because a guy with his kind of work ethic and with his kind of physique, he could very well. It's tough. I'll say that.
I would say if anyone could do it, GSP would be right up there at the top of my list. One of the most hard to recover injuries that there are, especially in a sport where it demands that you have flexibility and strength in that joint. It's terribly unfortunate that the super fight that we're hoping to see will only be filled with questions. That is, if we get to see GSP come back. My thoughts and prayers hopefully out with him. I hope so much that he can come back and fight the way he was fighting. I mean, coming back, trying to do things that you're not able to do is always unfortunate, but hopefully a speedy recovery for GSP.
Definitely a speedy recovery for GSP there. Terrible injury for him to suffer. We're with you on Off the Mat, man. That's going to do it for us. That is our season finale, guys. It's the last show of the year. We're gonna go into a couple things during the break. We're gonna talk predictions online. You guys hit us up on Facebook, Twitter. We'll put that at the bottom of the screen for you there. You guys make sure you talk to us over the break. We'll be sending out predictions. We'll still post predictions on the cards that are going to happen while we're on break. That's going to do it for us this week from Buffalo Wild Wings. This is Off the Mat from Buffalo Wild Wings 6. I'm Bernard Oliver for Jeremy Hurt and John Urcuyo. It's been a great semester, guys. Great a season here, awards, all kinds of things we pulled down. Until next time, we'll see you at the fights.
Going hard. Keep it sleazy.